Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. This time we're going to be checking out Dreadshells playing in the Tier 4 German light tank, the Luchs. Now, the Luchs has got very interesting matchmaking. This little German light tank can meet vehicles up to Tier 8. That's right, this thing might have to engage a Ferdinand, and they frequently do. And that's because they've got a very surprising gun and pretty good mobility as well. This 30mm has an autoloader, or an autocannon, not sure what would be technically correct to call about that. It fires 10 30mm rounds that do 30 average damage each, with 95mm of penetration on a Tier 4 light tank. If you decide to fire a few APCR rounds, it goes up to 110. So what that means is that you can do 300 damage if you're able to penetrate all 10 of your 30mm shells per clip. And the reload is not too long either. When you combine this with the fact that the Luchs is actually rather fast indeed, it's got a top speed limit of 60 kilometers an hour, it's got an excellent horsepower to ton ratio. The only thing that really lacks it down is its 33 degrees a second traverse speed. That means that you've got a little German box of fun that I only recently, in the last few months, purchased myself, and I've been enjoying it thoroughly. But I have yet to have a game like Dreadshells is going to have in this round here. Now, I mentioned that it is quite a nice matchup. This vehicle can meet up to Tier 8, so the amount of Tier 5 and Tier 4 tanks on the enemy team, pretty much all Tier 5 and Tier 4 apart from the Vesp at the bottom, mean that he's in for a treat. Oh! 6 out of 10 hit that Crusader, doing 174 damage to that Tier 5 British light tank. He's sticking it to the Brits here. This little German box of fun. Now the Crusader actually gets better matchmaking than the Luchs does. And I guess that's because the Crusader's not really balanced to be a high tier light tank at Tier 5. It's more of a kind of a medium tank, really, the Crusader. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on what Dreadshells is about to pull off here. And he's found a Valentine, another British tank. Oh, absolutely ripped it apart. 7 out of 10 shells penetrating, 207 damage done. Absolutely murdered that Tier 4 British light tank. And the Valentine's also very heavily armored, but not heavy enough for the 95mm of penetration on this 30mm gun. He whizzes past the Type T-34 and manages to penetrate 7 out of 10 on him. He outflanks him. He's trying to get round the back. Will he manage it? The Type T-34 is like, "Hey, I don't want any more of those shells, please, Mr. Luchs." Misses his first. Hits his second. Dreadshells puts his commander back in, finds the side of the Tier 5 Chinese medium tank, and absolutely rips it apart. And that is Luchs gameplay for you in a nutshell. Fantastic kill there on a tank a whole tier higher. So Dreadshells is up to 2 kills here. And he's done 831 damage, and that's a pretty decent amount of damage to have done in a Tier 3 light tank. But the game is vastly in the enemy team's favor. They are 6 tanks ahead. Well, make that 5 now as Dreadshells picks up his his third kill there, and his second on a Tier 5 tank. But unfortunately, there is a Churchill Mark I now sitting in the cap circle, at least towards the cap circle. No, it was the AMX-40 who was in the cap circle, and the Churchill that just entered it. He fires 10, but the accuracy on this gun is rather unimpressive. It's 0.5, I believe. And that means that trying to fire at full auto at this kind of range is a miracle if you hit the tank, let alone if you penetrate it. Now, the back of the Churchill is not the most heavily armored thing. And you might be asking, well, why isn't Dreadshells firing at this AMX-40 right now? And that's because, as he casually kills that M3 Lee, the range on these auto guns is not very far at all. These low caliber 30mm, as you can see by the red ring on the minimap, are unable to actually reach the target from his previous position. So he had to relocate nearer them, so his shells will actually reach the target. He hits the back of the Churchill a hell of a lot there, but is unable to do any damage to the thickly armored British heavy tank. And even from behind, this 90mm and terrible accuracy of the Luchs is ineffective. But he got a pretty good salvo off against that AMX-40. That's the duck tank, isn't it? Gosh, the Tier 4 French light tank, the infamous AMX-40, gets taken out by Dreadshells, securing his 5th kill. Now 2 Churchills are locked in combat. Churchill Mark 1 versus Churchill Mark 1. Let's see if Dreadshells can change the odds of the engagement a little bit. Oh my, he only managed to penetrate 3 shells there out of 10 into the back of the Churchill. But still, that puts his total up against the tank to 182 damage done. And that's decent. That's about a third of the Tier 5 British heavy tank's health. Now Dreadshells is trying to get out of there. He must be worried that the enemy are coming from behind him, and he was right to be worried about that as he finds a bishop. What are you doing there, Mr. Bishop? Were you trying to sneak up on me? Oh no, I really wasn't, Mr. Luchs. Please don't do anything to me. Oh god, no! That's my hull! The bishop misses, I believe, but Dreadshells decides not to go in yet. He's waiting. Maybe the bishop didn't fire. Oh, there you go. The bishop fires. And now Dreadshells sneaks in. Great job there to get behind this bishop. And now the frontal armor on that bishop, which is actually rather good. It's like a Valentine. Is absolutely worthless from behind. 350 damage done there to that Tier 5 British artillery. Our bishop is also a very interesting one because it gets a huge amount of hit points, 350. An absolutely silly vehicle. There are many I think Tier 6 SPGs that have got about that much health. So he puts in a couple of shots into the Churchill, interrupting the cap. That's an important thing to do. And now Dreadshells leaves. He's got to avoid the 2 artillery on the enemy team. There's an M41, and there's also a Vespa that he's got to watch out for. Now he decides that he wants to outflank this Churchill. He's weathered him down, now having done 215 damage to the Churchill. He's going to have to stop messing around soon. Because for all he knows, a lot of the enemy might have snuck into the cap circle along this southern flank. And so by going round this long way, he's kind of taking a risk. And there we go! A second tank enters the cap, and now that's half the time it requires for the enemy to successfully win the game. He's got 20 seconds left. He's got to hope that another tank doesn't manage to sneak it in as well. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10 seconds left. Come on, Dreadshells, you've got to go in now. He spots the Marder 38, who was facing the wrong way. Kills him in a single salvo, penetrating 9 shells there to do 270 damage. And it looks like this Churchill's engine is not doing very well from all of the shells that Dread was putting into him from long range, as he's unable to turn his tank very effectively indeed. The only thing that really seems to be in operation is the turret, and Dreadshells out-traverses the turret and finishes him off. 15 successful penetrations there into the Tier 5 British heavy tank. 454 damage done. Dreadshells secures his 8th kill. So what a result here. Dreadshells is competing for a Kolobanov's medal, being alone versus, I believe, at least 6, possibly 7 enemy tanks. I don't know who died first, if it was the AMX-40 on the enemy team, or if it's the Churchill right now. And really, this kind of gameplay is just the bread and butter of the Luchs, and is why so many people love this Tier 4 German light tank. It's able to bomb it around, put out a huge burst very quickly, and surprise the enemy with a devastating gun on a Tier 4 light tank. One of the most awesome things about this vehicle as well is if you do manage to get yourself into a Tier 7 or a Tier 8 matchup and you are shooting at tanks that are 3 to 4 tiers higher than you, you can get an insane amount of experience. And for any of you guys that do love to be the underdog in games, this tank can be your best friend. So Dreadshells gets spotted by the Pz.Kpfw, who has a kill. So he must kind of know what he's doing right now. However, he stays there. The artillery tries to ambush Dreadshells from below. He auto-aims at the Vespe and finishes him off very quickly indeed. Gosh, that tier 3 artillery does not have many hit points. And Dreadshells only needed to connect half a clip to be able to finish him off. But watch out, Dreadshells, there's still an M41 on the enemy team. But he takes his chances and has a go at the Pz.Kpfw, doing 272 damage to him. 9 out of 10 connected, and the Pz.Kpfw is like, what was that? Oh my word. When I grow up, I want to be just like you, Mr. Luchs. 9 out of 10, ripping apart the majority of the hit points. From another tier 4 German light tank. And I can tell which one I would rather be in. It's not really directly fair to compare the Luchs to other equal tiered vehicles or even equal tiered light tanks, as it does get that brutal matchmaking. So the Pz.Kpfw has disappeared. He only has 68 hit points left. So Dread must be feeling very much more comfortable and confident about possibly taking down this game and picking up the Kolobanov's medal. But it could all be changed. That M41 HMC has a ridiculously big gun for this tier, and will punish him voraciously if he's able to connect his shell. But luckily, Dreadshells manages to find him, get behind him, and take him out so quickly. No messing around with this tank. If I was in the Comet there, it would have taken me 7 or 8 seconds to kill that guy, probably. Had to put maybe possibly 2, sometimes 3 shots into him. Not the Luchs. Not this absolute German toy tank. So now Dreadshells is just sitting in the cap circle. Well, not sitting yet, he's driving around, but I think he'd do better if he was to set up his camouflage net and binoculars right now. So he finds a good position and does exactly that. With his camo net activated, if the Pz.38NA decides to come from this location or this location, it's quite likely that Dreadshells will be able to spot him first. The Luchs' view range is okay. It's 360 meters base. Well, actually, when you think about it, that's pretty darn good for a tier 4 German light tank. But with the binoculars, that does make it absolutely gargantuan. And maybe Dreadshells is hoping right now that the Pz.38NA was going for his cap circle. Or that maybe one of the 9 shells that penetrated the Pz.38NA crippled him, maybe killing his driver or taking out his commander, which would be a massive advantage to him in this situation. Not that he really needs it though, because the Pz.38NA is mortally wounded. Dreadshells finds him and fires little bursts at the target, making his rounds more accurate and enabling him to take out the Pz.38NA without too much risk. So what a fantastic result here for Dreadshells and his Luchs. He was able to pick up 11 kills, 2,771 damage in a tier 5 game, which is a huge carry, taking down 5 opponents by himself at the end of the game. I really like the way that Dreadshells handled the end of this game, the interrupting of the Churchill, and then realizing that the short range on the Bishop, which can only fire up to 500 meters, makes it likely that he would have advanced into the center, enabled him to take out that accurate rapid-fire British artillery for free, then to go up and get one more reset before outflanking his opponents and focusing down the right target at the right time, before using his speed to outmaneuver the wounded Churchill on the enemy team, before finishing off a further 2 artillery and his opposite number, the Pz.38NA. Just a fantastic round here. And there can be no doubts really why a lot of people absolutely love the looks of this little German toy tank. Let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats. So Dreadshells managed to pick himself up the Pz.Kpfw medal for killing at least 3 enemy artillery in a single battle, the Naden's medal for destroying all of the enemy light tanks on the enemy team, which is very impressive in these low-tier games because there are a lot of light tanks, a high caliber medal, a Top Gun for destroying at least 6 of the enemy team, the Defender for that fantastic defense against the Marder, and the Churchill, and the one that everybody wants, the Kolobanov's medal. So to be able to carry this game in his tier 4 light tank, Dreadshells had to do as much damage as the rest of his team combined, picking himself up 1,843 base experience points. And you've ever wondered what nearly a 50,000 WN8 game looks like, then look no further. Dreadshells, thank you so much for submitting this replay on the QuickyBaby Replays website. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to be giving it a massive thumbs up. And hopefully you guys liked this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if you want to see the vehicle that the Luchs grows up into one day, then simply click up here and you can go through to an absolutely phenomenal round in the RU-251 Speerpanzer. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about the Luchs. Do you have one in the garage? Is it one of your favorite tanks? Maybe you're a very experienced player and you've only just gone back and rediscovered this machine like me. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.